All right. Greetings, everyone. I hope that you're all doing very well. I wanted to put up a picture. So let me see about getting this up. Delete. All right, let me see if that worked. I hope that y'all had a good day. I don't know about you guys. Did y'all watch I guess it's more accurate to say listen to um did y'all listen to the Gannon Stout prosecution of Letitia Stout? The opening arguments were today. Uh, it was it was quite difficult to watch, actually. This is a new kind of pop up I've never seen before. Show. Okay, there we go. We're ready. Lori Vallow, jury selection day one, and obviously she is being prosecuted in Idaho for the deaths of her children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, as well as Tammy Daybell. That yes, Truth Seeker. And so I actually did listen to the opening statements for Letitia Stout's trial. I think it is so interesting that we have three huge cases. Hey, Christola, how are you? With three huge cases today that were focused on caretakers, people of trust, killing the children in their care. So we have Orson and Orrin Wells out in California. We have Gannon Stout, and now Lori Vallow is standing trial for the deaths of JJ and Tylee. So I feel like we really need to do better in our country. We really do. We need to do better in terms of protecting those among us that can't protect themselves. This attack on children is very frightening, and it's gone from just simple, abuse and then move them to a protected home. It's people acting out untold violence against children. It is terrible. It is really awful. So I'm just going to spare you the whole Letitia Stout opening statements comment, because any of you guys that watched it, was it horrible? If you thought okay, so the prosecution, I thought their opening statements were fine. I did see some people that felt like it was too short, that maybe they were not dramatic enough. Maybe the narrative wasn't, I don't know, I guess Hollywood kind of Perry Mason kind of thing. I really liked the opening statement of the prosecution because it was direct and it was to the point and it relied strictly on fact. And I like that, right? I think it grabs the attention of whomever is listening, and they look at you as if you have, credibility, because you're not using a lot of drama and a lot of, flowery over the top declarations, and and then we got to the defense, and that is where you got hyperbolic word vomit. Excuse me. The man, yes, she does look rough. Her attorney literally, I'm not making this up, he literally pretends to walk out. Like, I don't want to represent her. I don't want to be here, and then pretends to walk out. And then he comes back and he says, but we can't do that because we have a constitution, yada yada. And he was very dramatic, and there was a lot of, America and apple pie and mom's home cooking and the Constitution all say that Letitia should get a chance. Now, I'm being a little silly, but I promise you, I am not misstating what happened. I promise. So, so you'll have to. So I watched it on Sleuth Mom's channel. I really do enjoy going to her channel, and it's still small enough that it's comfortable in chat. The people there are very nice, and um, she let it play. So if you want to watch the whole thing from start to finish, she does have it on her channel without, there's no commentary, other than in the side chat, but there's no commentary, in the actual audio. And it's worth it to go listen. I trust me, it's pretty shocking. The defense attorney is cussing. He cusses multiple times. It's very strange. It was a very strange opener. So just, we're not going to be here long tonight. So I'm gonna make this short and sweet, and then y'all can go over there and watch the Letitia Stout opening statements if you have not already seen it. And then I'll be back on Thursday. We'll do this again with more detail for Letitia. So this morning, about 8:30 in the morning, the overflow room at the Idaho case, the Boise Lori Vallow case jury selection, the overflow room only had a few dozen people in it. That left people a little surprised, I suppose. Gigi was commenting on Court TV, and she was in the overflow room. She did say, this is a very interesting bit of tidbit. She did say that John Pryor came into the courtroom. So Pryor was watching the jury selection in the overflow courtroom, which I thought was very interesting. And they made the case that, there's no cameras here. So Chad has no way of knowing anything about the wife's trial other than what John Pryor observes. So I thought that was something unexpected. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but he certainly did show up, and he did watch today. Still no ruling on Larry and Kay Woodcock as non-family members. That you've been watching, it's quite, well, let's just say that Archibald really did do something low-handed and sneaky and pretty smelly. But they don't yet have a judgment on this. So we're still waiting on that. So jury selection began about 15 minutes late, and they need 18 jurors. There will be 12 actual seated jurors with 6 alternates waiting in the wing. And so finally, they had one juror that did not show up. And of course, Judge Boyce, never in the history of trials has there been a judge with a grander fall from grace than this judge. I'm talking about in my eyes. So when he does act like a judge, I just want to roll my eyes and go, oh, please spare me. Just spare me. You've already shown that you're loyal to Lori Vallow, and whether you're smitten and this is some misplaced, masculine valor because she happens to be cute. Or maybe this is a commitment to the 95% LDS community of Rexburg, Idaho. I don't know what it is, but certainly Boyce is working very hard to control the narrative. He's working very hard to restrict this story getting out into the rest of the United States of America. And so when he does something silly and foolish, I just roll my eyes. And I felt it was really foolish today. They had a juror that did not show up, and Boyce got, he adopted all the tough talk and said, oh, well, you could face jail or you're going to be fined. Okay, be quiet, please. You're not impressive. You're picking on grieving grandparents. You're giving in and being tender-hearted to a absolute cold-blooded killer of her own children and other people's spouses. No, we're not impressed with the tough talk on jurors that didn't show up for jury selection. Okay, enough of that, right? Sorry about that. Lori's dressed in a blue shirt with a black cardigan and reading glasses. And, Gigi said she sat quietly. Not sure what she did. We did, in fact, get a sketch. And again, Judge Boyce just looks foolish and short-sighted and silly because I don't want to cast any negative judgment on the artist, but can we be fair? Judge Boyce, it's 2023. We haven't had sketch artists in courtrooms in 25 years. This is silly what you're doing. Cameras work just great in the world of 2023, Judge Boyce. So the sketch artist, it's an abysmal failure in my opinion only. It just very simplistic, looked like a very talented junior high, very fast sketch. And it's hard to do. Can I say it's hard to do the sketch in a courtroom? It's quick, so it's not like you've got somebody sitting in a studio and you can take time, with the details. So it looks very simplistic is what I'm trying to say. Voice again puts on his big boy shirt and pretends to be a judge. He explains what voir dire is and what how the potential jurors might be dismissed, what might happen. He describes that the trial will last approximately 8 weeks. And he says, that quite a large number of you guys will be sent home without cause. So one juror raises his hand at about 9:30 and decides, ooh, judge, 8 weeks? Gosh, that's going to be a hardship. Boyce does ask the juror if he spoke with his employer about serving on a jury, and the guy tells the judge that the employer will only pay to be away for 14 days. The man says that serving on the jury would create a financial hardship for him. The defense, prosecution, and judge take no issue in dismissing the juror for financial hardship, and he is gone. So there was another juror, of course, after watching this exchange. The other juror came up and said, well, he has a trip planned to a resort. Let's just pretend it's Disney World. He's going to the Magic Kingdom mid-May. And if he is selected for the jury, he will lose his money on the fated trip. The prosecution and judge asked this man if he purchased trip insurance. I thought this was a little intrusive. Yes. Or if the trip is refundable. The man responds that he has not looked into that, and the defense does not object to dismissing this juror as well. State does not object, and Boyce once again gets to play God and say, sir, please go follow the yellow brick road to the Magic Kingdom and enjoy yourself. Boyce asked, is there anyone in the jury pool who knew nothing about this case until you came in last week with your questionnaires? There were actually in Boise, Idaho, people who raised their hands and said, yeah, we didn't know anything about Lori Vallow or Chad Daybell. Boyce asked the jurors if any are related to Daybell. No one raises their hands. Boyce asked if any of the jurors are involved in civil cases with Daybell. And again, no one raises their hands. Boyce asked the potential jurors if they are related to any of the attorneys, and nobody raises their hand. Boyce asked if anybody has sat on previous juries, and there was a few people who did. One lady says she served on a criminal jury about 2 years ago. Boyce asked if there was anything in the previous case that would affect her ability to be fair and unbiased in this case, and she says no. Boyce asked potential jurors if they have formed opinions about whether or not Daybell is guilty or not guilty. No one has raised their hand. Rob Wood then begins voir dire, and first question is interpretation. He asked a lady what her interpretation of brutal honesty means. Now, that term brutal, when you're talking about Lori Vallow, that's a loaded question, yes? So Rob Wood tells jurors to tell them exactly what they are thinking and feeling. There's a defendant here today who has a right to an impartial trial, and the people of the state of Idaho have a right to a fair and impartial trial. Can anybody in this room commit to following the law as it's given to you by the judge rather than relying on what you think the law should be? Even if you don't like the law as it's given, will you all still commit to following the law? And they all raise their hand because they're good and decent people, obviously. So Rob Wood then starts talking about all the news coverage and all the multimedia stuff online. And he says, you know, a lot of things out there are not true. I wonder what that means. So a lot of what we've been talking about for the past several years is not true. What could that be? Could it be things in relation to the LDS Church? Are we going to try Lori but run interference for the church? I think it's a legitimate question. I don't know, but you're talking about 95% of Rexburg citizens are LDS. He says that a lot of things on the news will not be presented in the trial because it simply isn't relevant to the case. He has asked jurors to set aside everything they may have heard before and only rely on what they will hear in the courtroom. He asked if any of the jurors will have difficulty doing that and calls on one person to answer. She says that she doesn't know anything about this case. Okay, I'm going to ask you, who's skeptical? If you're skeptical that there's even one person in Boise, Idaho that has not heard about this case, put a 1. If you think that that's possible, put a 2. Right? It's very uncomfortable. I don't know how. I am so skeptical, Chris. I am so skeptical. I don't understand how you can live in Boise, Idaho and not have heard about this case. That is very hard for me to understand. But that's what they said. So, you know, we go with what they say. I'm not calling anybody a liar. Rob Wood goes on to say there will be some evidence in this case that is emotionally charged, and it will be very difficult to look at. He asked if anyone will have an issue with this because there will be autopsy images of children. A woman raises her hand and says that she herself has 2 elementary school age children, and she did not know that this case involved children. So there again, we have another juror who obviously looked at Lori Vallow, the defendant, and did not know who she was, or she would have known that the case is actually primarily children that have been murdered, right? Well, I guess technically half, but Charles Vallow is not included in this indictment. There will be other types of evidence as well, says Rob Wood. Would you be able to rely on your reason and common sense with all of the evidence, even though, you know, it's going to be so emotionally charged? At this point, then Rachel Smith takes over, and obviously she's the death penalty certified attorney, but the death penalty is not on anymore, but it will be, I'm sure, with Chad Daybell. So she now takes over her part of voir dire for the prosecution. She begins by explaining that the judge will be giving instructions throughout the case. And she tells them that the crimes that are committed that will be read to them about Mrs. Vallow Daybell, she's using that, double name, last name, hyphenated name, Vallow Daybell, has been accused. I'm sure there's a psychological point of that too. One of the reasons that I continue to call Lori Vallow and I refuse to say Lori Daybell is because of the name Vallow. Because 2 of the victims, J.J. Vallow and Charles Vallow, that that shines that bright spotlight on the fact that she was in a position of trust. And that is quite critical under the law when you're talking about psychological factors that are a part of a crime. That she was in a position of trust over JJ, but also as wife to Charles. So she didn't know Daybell long enough to be anything except maybe, a passing crush. But she had a long marriage with Charles Vallow, and they had 2 children that they cared for in the marriage. So I think it's critical to keep that name Vallow front and center when you're talking about JJ and Charles and Lori. Make that connection between Vallow. So Rachel uses Rachel Smith uses the name Mrs. Vallow Daybell and talks about the judge's very specific definitions. The judge is going to give you those definitions. They're going to be a bit like recipes. And she then draws this analogy to a chocolate chip cookie recipe where you would mix together flour, sugar, chocolate chips, and butter. And then she said, some of you may think that it isn't a good recipe, but it is the recipe that you will be given by the court. Isn't that interesting? I keep thinking about that, and I kept thinking, what? They're going to present something that goes against what we on social media and I guess mainstream media, what we've kind of been thinking all along. Is that why Rachel Smith gets up and talks about chocolate chip cookie recipes that are not going to be the recipe you like, but it doesn't matter because you have to follow the one they give us? Very, very interesting. So at that point, then Rachel Smith stresses the importance of relying only on information, evidence that they hear in the courtroom, and that they cannot rely on news or anything else outside the courtroom. I guess that would mean us. Rachel Smith explains conspiracy and what that word actually means and how does that speak to witness credibility. You might hear about a witness's employment background, their religious beliefs, etc., and it may be different than what your own is. But then Rachel Smith asked jurors if witnesses' religious beliefs were different than theirs, if it would be an issue for them. I don't know how they're going to do this, y'all. I don't know how they're going to do this and keep religion out of this. I don't. I think they're putting the case in jeopardy by being so gentle with things related to this religious thing. It would be like trying to prosecute the Branch Davidians and leaving out the Bible or Jesus or Christianity. How do you do that? How do you understand that a group of people believed that David Koresh was Jesus, the second coming, and that's why they were willing to not only go to their death for him, but take their kids with them? Unless you understand the connection to the religious fervor, right? So I just thought this was so interesting. You may hear about a witness's employment background and religious beliefs, and it's probably going to be different than yours. And is that going to be an issue for you? And then Judge Boyce says, okay, we're going to take a break and we'll be back. And I don't know why I get irritated every time he does something. Anyway, they're back in court now, and Rachel Smith continues doing her questioning. And Lori Daybell is sitting there a bit like Jodi Arias, pretending to be busy and pretending that she's, one of the attorneys or something. So around 11 o'clock, it's getting close to 11 o'clock, Rachel Smith is questioning a potential juror who was an administrative assistant in a crime lab. The lady explains that her responsibilities were other things besides the actual testing. So Smith asked the woman's employment at the lab will affect her ability to be fair. And the lady says that she knows that she can be fair. Let's see. Now okay, so Rachel finishes what she's doing, and now the defense gets up to begin voir dire. It is Jim Archibald, a man I have grown to detest. He starts questioning potential jurors, and he says, I want to see your eyes. I wanted you to see mine because we're going to talk about your qualifications. I don't know, Archibald. Seems like a power move to me. Why are you telling potential jurors to look into your eye? Look deep into my eyes. Come on, Jim. Do better, Jim. All right. So Archibald's in questioning a lady who works for the Ada County Sheriff's Office. Her husband also works for Ada County Sheriff's Office. The juror's explaining what she does for her job, and she tells Mr. Archibald about while looking deep into his eyes that the job would not affect Lori's ability to, or that her job would not affect her ability to judge Lori fairly. Another is a stay-at-home mom of 2 children. The questioning goes very similar. Archibald asked to have the potential juror removed for hardship. She is concerned about serving on a jury and being away from her children for 8 weeks. Archibald says to her, while looking into her eyes, he says, Madam, do you want to stay? Or would you like to go? And she says with a rather frightened look on her face, Sir, I would like to go. Now, it's a little melodramatic, but basically they released her. So she's gone. Boyce, the king of all. Boyce declines to grant the request, and the juror remains for now. Why? Why, Boyce? You got a juror who's telling you, I got little kids. This is going to create a hardship. You got Archibald saying, hey, let's let her go. Why, Boyce? How many jurors do you have to choose from? My goodness. I'm going to tell you something about Judge Boyce. I think he's a control freak. He's not too worried about doing the right thing, but he is making sure that anything that is done by his word. There's another potential juror who received an order to report for annual U.S. Navy training. Archibald explains this and asks the judge to dismiss the juror for hardship. Rob Wood asked if it could be rescheduled. The juror is unsure. So Boyce grants Archibald's request and the juror is excused. I'm feeling a little irritated here. Archibald is now questioning individual potential jurors about how they answered certain questions on the questionnaire. They do individual voir dire starting at about 11:15. And so, of course, you can't hear that because they turn the sound off. It's done privately. At about 11:50, it was about 40 minutes later, individual voir dire has concluded and the video feed comes back up. Boyce tells everyone who is waiting with bated breath that 2 jurors have been excused, and he asks for a roll call of who all is remaining. The group of potential jurors being dismissed, and then another group will be called back. They are on standby, and if any from this group are picked for the final jury, then they will be called back, and the court takes a 30-minute break. The lunch break then is over at about 20 minutes till 1, and a whole new group of potential jurors have been brought in, and questioning begins all over again. There are a lot of updates this afternoon that we'll be posting. A whole new group will be questioned for prosecution and the defense. At about 1 o'clock, when Judge Boyce banned cameras and refused to allow a live audio feed, East Idaho News and other media outlets hired a sketch artist to draw images inside the courtroom. She is not permitted in the courtroom during jury selection, so she is drawing her sketches from the overflow room where they're simulcasting the screen. And just as I said last week, the screen, the image that they're getting of the courtroom is very grainy. Just like I said with the Barry Morphew case, it was like being in your 7th grade classroom again, and showing reel to reel on a pull down screen. And so it's the same kind of way. These courtrooms haven't kept up with technology, and clearly in Idaho, at least for Judge Boyce, he just doesn't want any kind of visual record made of the way he handles his courtroom. One has to ask, why, Judge Boyce? At about 1:15, there is a couple of jurors that have asked to be excused because they have serious illnesses with their family members. Boyce has granted all requests after consulting with both prosecution and defense attorneys. And meanwhile, back at the office, you've still got this poor woman that has young kids that they've told her, just be quiet. Your kids aren't important. What's the matter, Judge Boyce? Is it easy for you to dismiss little kids' needs and feelings? Is that why you look at Lori Vallow and don't see a potential monster there? You look at a pretty woman that may just be being persecuted, right? Why don't you put your thoughts on JJ and Tylee and Charles? That's where you should be thinking. At 1:25, the judge asked some generic questions from the jurors. Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney Lindsay Blake now questioning a new group and says they are looking for people willing and able to serve who will follow court's instructions. So, to me, Lindsay Blake ought to be saying, we don't want this lady with the little kids. Right out the gate, she's saying she wants to go home. Right out the gate, she's saying this is going to form a hardship because I have little kids at home and I don't have any way to get daycare for them. So Lindsay Blake is saying we only want jurors that want to be here. We want jurors that can do this, not jurors who are kind of torn between trying to listen to evidence and trying to think about her poor kids, But still, Judge Boyce is God. Blake says that Fremont and Madison prosecutors are here because the crimes occurred in both counties. Blake stresses the importance of having jurors follow instructions from the court, even if they disagree with the law or the prosecution. I'm struggling with this, y'all. I'm struggling with this. Why is the prosecution preparing jurors to be unhappy with their theory of prosecution? Why? Usually you hear this kind of talk from the defense. You're not going to like what you hear, but you got to follow the law. But we're getting this from Rob Wood and Lindsay Blake and Rachel Smith. Why? Why? It's very scary. Rachel Smith questions more jurors. She puts up a photograph of Tammy Daybell's gravesite, and she talks that, many people are thinking about Tammy Daybell, JJ, and Tylee. Lori Daybell has appeared very attentive during the afternoon selection. She's taking notes and leaning over to chat with her attorneys. And I think the image that comes to my mind is Jodi Arias, almost like she was delusional and believed somehow she was like one of the attorneys. It was kind of irritating. At about 1:45, Kay and Larry Woodcock, the conversation, they're not there. None of Lori Daybell's family members are there. Chad Daybell has no family there. So, it's just Lori. That's it in terms of the people that were directly involved in the alleged crime. So at around 2:00, prosecution decides they are finished questioning this group of 15 potential jurors. Archibald has a few follow-up questions. He asked individual jurors based on how they answered some questions. So he's asking more specific, types of questions to them. One of those that he's talking to works at the courthouse. The juror says that he believes his job would not affect his ability to be a fair juror. Archibald continues with his voir dire. There are 30 people watching from the overflow room as this goes on. And then they had 10 people in Madison County that were watching. And I wondered if those 10 people were Chad Daybell's family. Yes, I wondered. Voir dire has now, let's see. The individual voir dire started at around 2:15. Okay, at 3:30, two groups of 15 potential jurors had been finished. The 17 remain in the pool. The court needs to get 42 jurors locked in before the defense and prosecution begin intense questioning. They need to get to the number down to 18 to 12 jurors. I'm sorry, they need to get the number down to 18, which would be the 12 seated jurors and the 6 alternates. At 3:45, they brought in another group of 15 and began questioning them. They took a short break, and at 4 o'clock, this group of jurors that made it through were given the same instructions and guidelines that the other 2 groups had received earlier, and that he would see them back if they were called. It was late afternoon when Boyce got tough and said, "Oh, we have someone that's supposed to be here and they're not, and you might face a jail time and fines because you're absent, and I'm king." So that happened right close to quitting time. The afternoon group, the last afternoon group, they had 3 potential jurors that were dismissed due to hardships. And again, Rob Wood repeats his comments about brutal honesty. And that's that. They were dismissed, then the rest were dismissed. So, Lavina says, actually, many attorneys have clients write on a tablet or pretend to write as a way to calm the client and appear engaged without betraying overt emotional reactions. Thank you for that, Lavina. Yeah, I agree. And I find it interesting to look back at the Jodi Arias, the prosecution of Travis Alexander, this was another case coming out of that same parish in Arizona. Travis Alexander was his was overkill. And so Jodi Arias, is the convicted murderer. But just like you said, Lavina, you could watch her, and when there were things that were being said that might be really bad for her case, boy, she would just start writing furiously. And I noticed that same behavior in Amber Heard when the whole Johnny Depp trial was going on. So thank you. Yes, stabby. Correct, Chris. That is a Time War word, right? I remember when everybody was calling her stabby. Yes. Lavina Cordelia, that was a really good point. Absolutely. Thank you, Cat H. Yes. I think I'm going to have to, maybe I can remove Tinkerbell. Let me see if I can get Tinkerbell out of the way and see if that helps us see better. Oh, there, that's perfect. Okay. You got to get the little crown up top, right? It sucks to have hers and Gannon's trial at the same time. Are you going to be on at night to talk about the day's trial? I want to watch Gannon too. Okay, so Elizabeth, Sleuth Mom, let me get the link to her channel. Hold on a second. Take me just a second to get it pulled up. So I watched in her channel today the opening statements. The opening statements for Letitia Stout. And I'll give you date. Well, no, because don't you want to watch what happened today? It was interesting. I'm going to give you day 1, but she's already got the day 2 link up. So if you hit, remind me or something like that, alert, what's it called? Can't think what it's called when they tell you the live starting. Um, okay, so here is the link. Copy. So I watched, thank you, Vicky. You can tell I'm struggling. Thank you. Yes, it says notify me if you hit the upcoming trial day or video. So there is the link, and I watched there, and it was the most bizarre. I promise you, I'm not kidding. It was the most bizarre opening statements on the defense. It was the most bizarre I've ever heard. How many of y'all watched it? It was very strange. The defense attorney pretended to leave the courtroom at one point. He's cussing. It was very strange. Yes, Vicky. Okay, so Vicky G says her attorney. Oh my God. Yes. It was very strange. It was very strange. So if you don't watch anything else related to the Letitia Stout trial, you've got to go over to Sleuth Mom and watch the opening statements. It was very odd. So, and if you want to really be entertained, look at the side chat because people were just in amazement. It was really something. Yeah. I did, I made the observation today how sad it is that we have Orrin and Orrin West out in California. That trial is going on. Both of them dying at the hands of their mom and dad. They were foster kids, but they were set for adoption. We've got Gannon Stout, who was allegedly killed by his stepmother. And we have JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan allegedly killed by Lori, their mother. It's terrible, isn't it? We have ended up in a very strange place that child abuse and neglect is so extreme that we've got dead children showing up everywhere. We got to do better. I don't know if it's a problem with CPS. I don't know if people are afraid to speak up. I don't know, but we got to do better. I got attacked one time for reporting something that happened to CPS as well as to Sheriff's Department. But that's what you're supposed to do, right? If you're a teacher and your eyeballs see abuse happening, right? Let's say you take your kids out, they get in the bus, they get in the cars with their parents, and as you're about to go back into the school building, you see your student get into a truck, and then the parent begin to just punch them. What are you going to do? Are you going to say, oh, I don't want to call because I don't want that dad or that mom to be mad at me? Or are you going to go, hey, I'm a mandated reporter. I don't have a choice. I must contact CPS and the Sheriff's Department. Correct? So it's so many, Kat, so many. So I think we need to get reoriented. Children need to be protected because they can't protect themselves. And we really need to start holding the parents accountable for be loving and protective. It's not hard to do. It's easy to be loving and gentle to little kids. It really is. All right. So finally, the last part, we're looking at right at 45 minutes already. It kind of went by much faster than I thought. Which one wore the hairstyle better? Do you think little Polly, the Maltese, or do you think Lori Vallow, accused murderer, wore the hairstyle better? If you like Polly the Maltese as wearing the hairstyle best, put a 1. And if you think that Lori Vallow, accused murderess, wore it better, put a 2. So we'll wait for the votes to come in. Is it a 1 or a 2? Loving and gentle is easy. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely agree. Look at these ones. Nobody's gonna vote for the accused murderess. Polly the fashion maven. I love it. Okay. Hi, matey. Hi, Shelly Jakes. How are you? Vicky Carpenter, welcome. Hey, Elizabeth Ross. Hi, Caledonia. Hi, Chris Shearer. Not there yet. How are you? Hey, Shelly. Hi, facing reality and not liking it a bit, right? Not liking it a bit. Yes. No excuses. You know, if your childhood stinks, you know you need help to change this childhood gap. Yeah, absolutely, Kat. They try to make that excuse with Letitia Stout during opening remarks or arguments or statement or whatever they call it now. They give this, you know, this stereotypical Hollywoodish kind of, oh, poor Letitia had such a bad childhood and her mother had so many different men in and out of the home. And get this, when Letitia's a child, she had to sleep in the car to escape from all the men that were coming in and out of the mother's house. Just stop. Right? Just quit. You're not pulling at any heartstrings with that when you've got a little boy who was tormented and tortured worse than any prisoner of war on the planet. Rebecca Scott says that the accused murderess wore it better. There you go. It is a fair poll. Lori got a vote. Thank you, Rebecca, for that. Lori needs to get another groomer. Thank you, Shelly. Hey, big ups. How are you? Neither. Too much hair clogs bathtubs. I can see that you are a practical man. Big ups. Good, Yvette. Yeah, Yvette, that opening statement, right? Yeah, that child was tortured. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, facing reality. Rebecca, are you a cat person? No, I think Rebecca thinks it looks better on Lori. I think that's her honest opinion, right, Rebecca? Okay. Chris says, I like practical men. There you go. Well, he's right about the clog in the sink. Yeah. All right. Lori's hair is my hair during lockdown. If those things were true, one wonders why it didn't motivate her to be protective of her children. She just lost control, you know, of the delusion. You know, I often say this, Lavina, that most people are going through their day with some level of I'm going to call it for just a moment, some level of delusional thought. Now, I don't mean they're in delusion, but that most people will have things about their lives that they're not happy with, things they wish could be different or better. Wish I could lose 20 pounds, or I wish I had more money, or I wish I drove a newer car. Those types of you know, kind of angst-filled types of thoughts. And sometimes people will use certain types of I'm trying to be careful with the words that I use here. They'll use some type of manipulation to make it more acceptable. If they're driving an older car, it's not very good, then maybe in their mind, they pretend that they're driving an Audi. It's pretend, it's not real. They don't walk up to their old beat up Volkswagen and see a brand new shiny red Audi. They know that it's pretend, but to kind of make themselves feel better, you know, they'll say, oh, well, what would it be like if this was an Audi? I drive a Mustang. And so I say, oh, it's really a Shelby. Okay. I mean, I don't actually believe that, but you kind of try to imagine what it might be like if that were the case. Or, you know, I wish I, you know, was 20 years younger. Or I wish I weighed 10 pounds more. Or, you know, I wish my boobs were bigger. I wish my boobs were smaller, whatever. And so we kind of, in our minds, to feel better, we displace some of that frustration with kind of an illusion, right? To make us feel better. And I think where religion comes into play, and there's might be a little OCD there, I think it would be very easy for someone to lose control of that if they had the help. And I think in Lori's case, she was raised in the LDS church. I think it's my opinion that that guy that's running that ward in Arizona, there's something wrong in Arizona. There's some crazy things coming out of that church. And in recent years, in that church, you had Travis Alexander, Jodi Arias, and Lori Vallow, Jason Mao. There's something going on in that church. Sean Little Bear. There's a lot coming out of Arizona in a strange way. I'm not making accusations. I'm just making observations. And you have to wonder, if she had never met Chad Daybell, who I think is a good old-fashioned con artist, I don't think he believes a word of what he's saying. He's just trying to be powerful. He is in a, so his family, his brothers are very successful. One's an attorney. I think the other one is a physical therapist, some kind of healthcare. I think it's physical therapist. And he's a nobody. Listen, you know how we were sold this bill of goods about how, oh, he's this up and coming, talented, amazing author. He's an author. You remember all that? He made $2,000 a year on his doomsday books. But these people were inviting him to talk and to have sway over hundreds and thousands of people. He only sold $2,000 worth of books per year. People. Year. So why did they give him a position of influence? Who were these people that put him up in front of big crowds of people on prepper weekends? These people are preparing for the end of the world, y'all. Thousands of dollars of prepper food was found in Lori Vallow's house in Arizona that she abandoned. Thousands. Her brother, Adam's wife, said Lori Vallow was mailing to all of the different family members. She was mailing them prepper food. This was before Chad Daybell entered the picture. So it just seemed like it was this intersection of early teachings, a propensity toward personality disorder, and an ache to be something special, or perhaps that whole narcissistic drive of, I feel like I'm destined for greatness. I don't know what it's going to be because I don't have any kind of accomplishment of my own, but I think I'm just destined for greatness. And then here comes the great and famed, Chad Daybell saying, hey, I'm going to be king of the 144,000 and you're my queen. And we've been married before on other times and lives and planets. And we're going to be the best of the best. And then this group of hidden men and women start treating her like she's special. It was one kind of crazy running over the path of another kind of crazy, and it all went to hell in a handbasket, literally. Now, the question is, when it came down to people having to die, where did that originate? I don't believe Chad Daybell believes any of what he's saying. I think he is looking for people to treat him like he's special. And I don't think he believed it. David Koresh believed. David Koresh was truly crazy. I think he really believed that he thought that he had special powers. He kept having these delusion affirming events happen in his life that really led him to a place of thinking, no, I must be, because look at all these weird things that have happened. But in terms of Chad Daybell and all his nonsense, no, I think it was this group of people that was just trying to make money and get rich off these poor people that believe the end of the world is coming. And but this whole narcissistic thing that might be happening with her, being told that you're supposed to be queen of the 144,000 and all you ever wanted to be was queen of something, even if it was Texas, well, you might buy into it way too deep, But at the point of the murders, that's it right there. Was it Alex that was truly crazy? Was it Alex that was so completely off his rocker nuts that Daybell was able to sort of turn and look the other way, and Lori was able to look the other way? And then when they woke up the next morning and there's no little children, then they just never talk about it again, right? It's not that they planned to harm them, but maybe they just said, wow, the children, Alex, are in the way of us completing our mission. Isn't that a shame? And then suddenly they're not there anymore. And instead of Lori freaking out and saying, where are my children? Nobody said anything. They just got on an airplane. Maybe they were kind of convincing themselves that the kids were with Melanie Gibb and everything was fine. You don't know, but it doesn't make them any less guilty. It doesn't make them any less guilty. The fact that they didn't ask and follow up and go frantically searching for those children shows that they were complicit in their death. So I don't know, if you listen to Zulema Pastinas in her interview with Hermosa, I can never say his name, Hermosia. If in the interview with Hermosia, she says that Alex says to her, I'm afraid that they are going to make me their scapegoat. Meaning Lori and Chad were going to make Alex the scapegoat. He said they, not him. I'm afraid she will. I'm afraid he will. She says, Alex says, I'm afraid they. So, yeah. The Maltese definitely wore the top knot better. Thank you, Hill. Thank you. All right. Out of the dadgum minds. There you go, sweet tea. Absolutely. All right. Okay. It was the scapegoat. Thank you, Chris. He had to go. He knew all. You're talking about Oh, no, Alex had to go. Well, remember, Alex got the blessing moments before he died. Oh, yeah, of course he's dead, big ups. Plan on getting a rescue. Not good, Elizabeth. Hi, St. Elmo's. All right, people. Well, thank y'all so much for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I got one more. Hold on a minute and let me pull up the other channel. A really good I'm talking about great content. It was a live that was done last night. It's a little bit long, but it's got some pretty unbelievable information in it. And I think that if you will go over and watch it, I think it gives you a little bit of insight for Lori's background and the influence that she may have been experiencing by Chad Daybell. So there is the link. That is to a channel called Difficult Research, and this is the direct link to the video from last night. The lady that does the video, this is JJ Vallows. I got to think and make sure I got this right. Charles Vallow is her brother. So JJ is her nephew or her cousin, biological cousin, legal nephew. Okay, sorry. Kay and Larry Woodcock are her mom and dad. So her research, what'd you think, Elizabeth? Her research was amazing, wasn't it? It was so interesting to hear the recordings of people that had gone through the second anointing. It very interesting. Y'all just have to go watch it. It is, I promise, it is definitely worth the time. So I hope that you will go over and watch it tonight. I am going to get out of the way at 7:00, and Scott Reich and the rest of the big channels will be doing a lot of work with both of these, tonight. So I appreciate you being here. I hope that you'll hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. And I will see you again on Wednesday. All right. I really do appreciate you guys being here. And remember, Sleuth Mom has the Letitia Stout opening statements up, and Difficult Research has the live from last night where they went into the background of the LDS Church and second anointing, and your blood will run cold when you see the parallels between the church teachings, the hidden teachings of the second anointing and Church of Firstborn, with what Chad and Lori were engaged in. You've got to go watch it. It's amazing. Please hit thumbs up. Please subscribe, and I will see you on Wednesday.